It's opened up. Okay, here we go. So today we're covering 2.1, solve multi-step equations. Some of this was on your extra credit that we did. So some of this may kind of be easier for some versus others. Okay, your steps to solve. These are the steps you want to remember. Okay, step 1 is to distribute if needed. And guys, I know y'all may not be able to keep up, and that's okay. Step 2 is to combine like terms by using either boxing or circling the like terms. And number 3 is to solve the equation. Now I'm adding a number 4, but this is optional. This is your choice, and that is going to be to check. All right, so for our first problem, there are no parentheses, so there's no distributing. So I'm going to combine like terms. I'm going to step 2. So I'm going to circle my variable terms, which includes the sign that's in front of it, and I'm going to box my constants. And now I add them. 9x plus negative 7x, or 9x minus 7x, that's going to give me 2x. 1 plus negative 5, or 1 minus 5, that's going to give me a negative 4, equals negative 20. And now I'm solving. Step 3. So this is minus 4, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. This zeroes out. We bring down the 2x. So I have 2x equals negative 16. It's 2 times x, so I undo that multiplication by dividing by 2 to both sides, and I have x equals negative 8. This is going to be the only problem that I actually check. I'm trying to see why it's a little blurry. I guess it's okay. All right, so to check, we plug into the original. Always plug into original equation. You always plug into the original, not the one that you changed. So I'm going to have 9 times negative 8 plus 1 minus 7 times negative 8 minus 5 equals negative 20. I'm wanting to know if all of this equals the negative 20. So I'm going to actually take and punch all of this into the calculator. We have those nice handy dandy TI-84 calculators where we can punch all that in. When you punch it all in, you do get negative 20 equals negative 20. This is true, so this is my correct answer. Moving on, we're going to skip the problem. We're moving down to number 4. Okay? For number 4, we're taking, and we have to distribute now because we have the multiplication. What's the curveball that they throw in here? Is this negative outside of here? That's understood to be a negative 1. So that means I'm distributing the negative 1 to everything inside. So I'm doing negative 3 times k, so that gives me negative 3k. Negative 3 times negative 8, that gives me a positive 24. Negative 1 times k, that's a negative k. Negative 1, God bless you, times 5 is negative 5, equals 23. We've done all the distributing. Now we combine like terms. So I'm going to circle my variable terms, and I'm going to box my constants. Negative 3k minus k, those are like terms, so that's a negative 4k. 24 minus 5 is a positive 19, equals 23. We've got to solve for k, so I've got to move the 19, so I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. negative 4k equals 4. Get k by itself, it's multiplying by negative 4, so I divide by negative 4 to both sides. K equals negative 1. Flipping it over, moving on to some other problems on the back now. I'm going to jump down to 8. For number 8, I chose this one obviously because of the fraction. Multiplying this through, so I have, bring down to negative 25, so I have half of 10x, that's going to give me 5x. Half of negative 2 is negative 1 plus 3x. Now we combine our like terms, so I'm going to circle my variable terms. And I have negative 25 equals 8x minus 1. And now we're solving for x. So I'm going to, it's subtracting 1, so I add 1 to both sides. And I have negative 24 equals 8x. Divide by 8 because I'm multiplying by 8, and I get that x equals negative 3. Moving on to number 9, okay, because 1/2 is an easy fraction. 5/2 is a little bit different. So again, the thing that can mess us up on this is people will multiply by 5/2 when this is a negative 5/2 that we have to multiply by. So we bring down the 7, and I'm multiplying negative 5/2 times 8r. If I don't know what that is, then I'm coming over here to this side, and I'm going to do negative 5/2 times 8. So I'm going to make this into a fraction, 8 over 1. And I'm going to see, can I cross cancel? Can I simplify? 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So now I'm doing negative 5 times 4, which is much easier, and we end up with a negative 20. So I'm now going to have negative 20r, and then I'm going to do the same thing with negative 5/2 times 6. So I'm going to write my calculations over here. So I'm going to have negative 5/2 times 6 over 1, make it into a fraction because I'm dealing with fractions. 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 6 3 times, so I have negative 5 times, ooh, wait a minute, that's 6. I wrote it positive, but it's actually a negative 6. That's another common mistake. People will forget that this has the sign in front of it. So this is supposed to be a negative 6, so this is going to be a negative 3. So we have negative 5 times negative 3, which gives me a positive 15. So I have plus 15 plus 2r equals 32. Now we combine our like terms, just like we've been doing for the other problems. Circle, I'm going to stick with circling my variable terms, boxing my constants. I always write the variable terms first. So I have a negative 20r plus 2r, so that's going to give me a negative 18r. 7 plus 15 is a positive 22 equals 32. And now we solve. So I'm going to subtract 22 from both sides. Cancels, and I have a negative 18r equals 10. Divide by negative 18. The 18s cancel. Now, you're going to think, oh, wait a minute, I can do this division. You can do the division with a calculator and get a decimal. This one actually ends up being nice because it ends up being 0.5 repeating. But if not, leave it as the fraction. If I look at this, I can reduce this. I can divide by 2, and I end up with a negative 5/9. You can write this as the negative 5/9, or you can write it as the decimal. If you end up with an ugly, long, non-ending decimal, leave it as the reduced fraction. Okay? When we're looking at number 10, for number 10, we're solving. okay? But we've got to write it first. We have to translate first. It says 5 times, so that means I'm going to be multiplying the difference of. That sentence right there tells me I've got to do parentheses. Difference, 5 times the difference, that means I'm doing subtraction in there. So I'm going to have 5, open parentheses, twice a number, and 3. So I'm doing 2x minus 3. Then it says decreased by the sum. So decreased means I'm going to subtract, but it says by the sum of. That's another set of parentheses. By the sum of a number and 8. So that means doing x plus 8 equals 13. Now it looks just like the problems we've been doing. So now we distribute and we solve. So I'm going to distribute the 5 to the 2x, and that gives me 10x. 5 times negative 3 gives me a negative 15. This is where we have to remember that this is a negative 1 that I'm distributing. I'm doing negative 1 times x, so that's going to give me a negative x. Negative 1 times 8, that gives me a negative 8, equals 13. And now we combine like terms. So I'm going to box my variables, circle my constants. So we have 10x minus x, that gives me 9x. Negative 15 minus 8, that gives me a negative 23 equals 13. And now we solve. So I'm going to add 23, add 23. 9x equals 36. Divide by 9, divide by 9, and we get that x equals 4. What I want you to do right now is you're going to solve number 7, okay, and check with, you don't have to write this down, guys, check with Mrs. Wilson before looking at the answer key. I know the answer key is in Schoology. Please do it without checking the answer key and come and show me so I can see if there's any mistakes. All right, y'all have a great day.
Ms. Wilson?